Welcome back. So now we're going to look at another one of the smart munitions. We're going to we're going to look at GPS and location munitions. The JDAM falls under this umbrella, whereas many others do as well. But this is different from the laser. So you've got the laser, and these are two very distinctive ways of getting your smart munitions on target. So with this, I've got a picture up on the top left where your aircraft is aligning. So when you start a mission or you start up your aircraft, what's happening is you either need to input a latitude, longitude, or where you are, GPS coordinates, into the flight computer, or it knows where you are to begin with through a data tape or whatever reason. Takes a bit of time to spin up the gyros, work out where you are, make some calculations. And in the A10's instance, you also need to flip a few switches. I've got a video on the ANS ULN error. I think it's ALN UNS error. Anyway, basically what it is if you don't go through the full setup and the full alignment, you're not going to be able to share that information with the rest of the aircraft. And that's where I've taken that picture from, a tutorial on why you're getting that error. So there's many ways you can set coordinates for munitions. You can do it through a SPI, which we'll get into later. That's a sensor point of interest. That's set either by a TGP. You can set it in many different ways in the A10. And the A10's fantastic for this. It's really user-friendly aircraft, even though it's got huge complex systems. One of my favorites. The coordinates can be entered manually, either through pre-planned or data tape or whatever. Not with the A10, I'm just in general now. Entered manually into the scratch pad. Sometimes they're entered through latitude, longitude notation, or the military notation, which I can't remember what it's called, but generally if you're working with JTAC, which is a air controller on the ground that will give you coordinates, they'll spit out something like Mike, Charlie, Kilo, whatever. You enter that into your system, and that is essentially a latitude, longitude, or GPS coordinate that can then be handed off to your munition. So you have to remember a lot of these systems, they work a little bit differently, and the reason why I've got the handoff to bomb there as a star is because your aircraft's got this information, it's calculated stuff, it's done all the work, but you need to hand that information off to the weapon in some way, shape or form. Generally, if you set a SPI, a sensor point of interest, or enter it manually, it should hand it off to the bomb. But just remember, you need to be aware of when that handoff happens. Otherwise, you're going to try and pickle your ordnance, and it's not going to go anywhere. So just keep that in mind, and also keep in mind the scratch pad that I've mentioned. When you enter something, like say in a text editor on a computer, you can smash away on that keyboard and everything's entered and your words are there. The way a lot of aircraft work is you have a scratch pad where you enter stuff in, but it's not entered into the system. You can type it into the scratch pad, say for instance latitude, longitude, or the military notation, but it's not entered anywhere until you click the button to put it where you need it. Whether you hit enter or you click one of the buttons around the MFDs, the screens there, I think they're called OBS buttons. Until you click one of them, it's not entered. Say for instance, on that line, I don't know whether you'll be able to see it on the screen, you've got north 4137 452 and you've got east. You can type in those coordinates, but they're not going to go anywhere until you click the OBS button assigned with that line. So you'll need to be aware of that, and we'll get some practice in later, but this is really just looking at the overview of how some of these weapons are deployed. This is basically the GPS. It's fairly simple. You give it a coordinate, it knows where to go. As long as you're aligned correctly with your aircraft and the information has been handed off to the munition so it knows where it's going.